he had left me $1.12 between our two accounts.
I now get an allowance as a stay-at-home mom. This week we get $40.
Please, somebody help me, please. I don't know what to do.
I've been seeing a lot of videos of women talking about financial independence online. And we talk about it a lot as a concept. We know it's important. We say it's important. But most of us haven't actually lived through why it matters. Or even if we have, we don't always connect the dots in the moment. So in this video, I want to show you a few things I found on TikTok. Women talking about what actually happened when they relied on a man for money. Because the pattern, once you see it, is kind of insane.
I distinctly remember the day that I realized that my husband, or soon-to-be ex-husband, was unsafe. At that time, I was on disability because my mental health was so bad that I could not work for a time. I wasn't on disability for very long. Like, I had literally just started. And so I didn't know how I was going to pay our bills. I called his mother. His mom was shocked, but, you know, he is never held accountable for anything. No fight, no argument, no whatever should anyone, especially a spouse, leave their spouse with nothing to pay the bills. And it went on like this for months.
From what I can piece together, her mental health wasn't in a good place. And around that same time, her husband just stopped paying the bills. I'm sure there's more context we're not getting. But as it stands, this is someone she depended on for better or worse, and he just checked out. That's a lot to carry on your own. And that's not even one of the worst stories in this video. Someone took two separate viral clips and edited them together. And I have to give credit to Francesca Lee for that. Because putting these two side by side shows you exactly how something like this starts and how it can end.
I'm 19 years old, married, no degree, no 9 to 5.
I'm 37. I've been a stay-at-home mom for the past 10 plus years.
I got engaged at 18, married at 19.
2 weeks ago, he told me that he wants to move forward with divorce.
I didn't go to college.
I have no income.
I don't have a job.
I have no money.
And I'm not getting one.
I use my husband's credit card and I use my husband's money.
Yes, me and my husband do have an age gap.
I'm 37. He'll be 55 in March.
He is 10 years older than me.
And I married an older man thinking that he was ready for marriage and to settle down.
Me and my husband dated for 6 weeks before getting engaged.
I use an American Express credit card for everything. It's got my name on it, but obviously he pays the bill.
And I'm told by a lot of people that I should be young and out there and living my life.
And he said, you need to start using your own card now. What card?
I don't know what that means.
I don't have a card. That is my card.
I promise you I am living my life to the fullest in my faithful marriage.
I don't know how to take care of myself.
I'm 19 years old, married, no degree, no 9 to 5.
I don't, like, it's just terrifying.
And I'm exactly where I want to be.
Okay, I feel for both of them, honestly. Nobody can say for sure where the 19-year-old's relationship is headed. But there's just no interest in being self-sufficient here. And I'm not saying she won't learn a lot running a home, because she will. But at 19, engaged after 6 weeks of dating, she's kind of been robbed of something, not by him necessarily, just by the timeline itself. And then look at the other woman, decades in. Nobody expects to get cheated on and left. But did either of them ever think about what happens if something happens to him? If he gets sick, if he can't work? Did either of them get the chance to build a skill outside the home at all? Where would either of them even start? This next video is a reminder that these situations don't just affect the woman in them, they affect the kids watching too. I've cut it down a few times, links in the description.
The real reason why I would never fully financially rely on a man is because when I was 14 years old, my mother called my sisters and I, and she said, I'm leaving your dad, and I already have my own apartment, so if you and your sisters want to come and live with me, you can feel free to do so. I remember sitting with my mom and talking with her about the move, and she was laying in bed, and she said, well, Glory, I finally have peace of mind. My dad was horrifically abusive mentally, physically, emotionally, and my mother always said that she would leave my dad when all of us left the house and went to college. However, when we were 14 years old, she had had enough and she finally decided to leave my dad. Financial independence allowed my mother to do so. She had her own money and she had her own job. This is really important because my mother died 6 years later. As long as you have financial independence, you have a lot more agency and you're not beholden to him. And that is something my mother taught me at a very young age, not necessarily through her words, but through her actions.
It's genuinely sad to think about how long her mom probably fought through that. But I'm glad she got out before she passed, because the alternative would have been so much worse. And I think that's what leaving actually gave her, the ability to think past just surviving, to plan for her kids' future instead of just the next paycheck. When you're in survival mode, in a relationship you can't leave, you can't even ask the basic questions. Is there a plan for this family? Is there a retirement account? Because asking those questions requires a kind of safety you don't have.
So imagine this. 5 years of marriage, everything's going okay. You're a stay-at-home mum, you think you've landed on your feet with everything. And then one random Monday, your husband ups and leaves. You don't hear off of him for a week. And then he texts you 5 days later to say the marriage is done. And in that moment, your whole world comes crashing down. You've got no money. You've got no bank account. You've not got a job. You've got a 3-year-old and a house. That's what happened to me. That is why I am so big on women having their own money, having their own income. Because one day, that could happen to you. I'm not saying it will. But what if that happened? What would you do? I am so incredibly big now on women having their own security, having something that's theirs, that works around their life, but can't be taken away from them.
I can't even imagine that. 5 years, and then a text that it's over. Everything you built, every plan you had, gone. Over text. And now you have to figure out what you're doing next with kids because someone else decided to be a coward about it. We talk about this as a money issue, and it is, but the emotional weight of it is its own thing entirely.
When I was 20 years old, I got married to a smoking hot Mormon returned missionary, and he promised to love me forever, not just till death do us part, for time and all of eternity. And he was a liar, but I didn't know that when I was 20. So I dropped out of college and gave up my job and had the babies and stayed home for 24 years of my life.
In the beginning, he promised to love her forever, for time and all eternity. That language is specific to the faith they were raised in. And what he does next goes against everything that background is supposed to stand for.
At age 44, about 6 years ago today, my husband abandoned me and our 4 kids for a 19-year-old escort. I went to Trader Joe's to buy myself a bag of groceries, swiped my card, and it was declined. I should have had a ton of money in that account, and it was all gone. It was gone. My name had never been on one of our homes. My name hadn't been on our vehicles. My name wasn't on the Mercedes that I was driving at the time that our marriage ended. He was able to evict me from the condo that we were renting together because I didn't even exist on the lease, not even as a roommate, not even as a pet. He just canceled the lease.
She left college, left her job, had the kids, gave decades to this family. Then she found something on his phone. 6 days later, he was gone for a 19-year-old. Whatever was happening in him, maybe it had been building for a while, we don't know. But the way it landed on his family was sudden and brutal, and she never had a bank account of her own through any of it. Nothing in her name. Listening to story after story like this, I keep wondering, does it ever cross anyone's mind that something might change? That's the scary part. What love does when it gets mixed in with money and total dependence. We have to be on our toes. I cut this next one down. It runs a bit long for YouTube, but I really think it's worth watching the full thing if you're in a situation like this. She gives some genuinely useful steps.
Please, somebody help me, please. I don't know what to do.
The first thing you're going to do is accept the fact that your husband is gone. He's not coming back. And even if he was to come back, He is not to be trusted. Then you're going to get any jewelry that you can sell, up to and including your wedding ring, and you're going to sell it. You're going to get some cash that you need to feed your children.
I don't even know what to say to that. That's scary. The weight of everything she just laid out, all in one breath.
If they control your access to money, they control your ability to leave. If you're having to ask for money, if you have your spending being monitored, being punished for buying groceries or gas too often, like simple necessities, it can also look like somebody stealing your credit, hiding accounts from you, keeping you from having your own job. And it's often done under the guise of wanting to care for you, but really it's all about power and control.
This can also look like being treated like a child, honestly. Remember the woman at the very beginning, the one with the weekly allowance? It doesn't even have to be extreme or controlling on the surface. But when someone tells you it's our money, and then in practice you're getting an allowance instead of actual access, that's not the same as full autonomy. Those are two very different things wearing the same words.
We have 6 kids, and I have been financially dependent on him for 20 years. Well, more than that, our entire marriage. Last year, he artificially reduced the amount of money in our family income so that it was below how much we needed to have just sufficient funds. And so over the course of the year, we basically blew through all of the extra savings that were in that account. He's putting it into savings accounts. I used to be able to see them, but I can't see them anymore because he hid them. Because I'm dependent and I'm not really that into the finances stuff, like I could see them through a budgeting app, but now I can't. He just went ahead and made decisions himself, and so he cut me off from the family credit card, which was in his name, right? It was a card for him, and he told me that he had reduced the amount in our family budget more substantially. He told me to use a credit card that 2 months before then he had asked me to open in my own name. Like, I didn't know that that was going to be a problem, but now he wants me to use that, and obviously that makes me financially responsible. But he said he threatened to ruin my credit and not to pay anything that went over. So now I feel really nervous to use that credit card at all.
He's taking full control here, and he doesn't need your permission to do it, even if the agreement was always that you'd build this together. There's probably a lot happening behind the scenes you don't get to see because you're not the one bringing in the income. And threatening to ruin her credit if she overspends when the budget was already cut and what she's spending on is the household, that's not overspending, that's just living. The fact that he's been like this for a while and she's still there says something too. Maybe the dependency runs both ways more than it looks.
Well, I do believe that he will get better.
What makes you believe that?
The Lord told me.
How long have you been married?
Over 20 years.
And how long has he been asserting this berating behavior?
Since before we got married. We got Christmas gifts that were like a check. I got one in my name. He got one in his name. I mentioned putting mine in my own private account. He didn't like that. He said that needed a lot more conversation. So I was really wanting to know if it's wise or foolish of me to put this large cash sum into
At this point, you're
account.
protecting yourself because I don't know if this marriage is going to survive. And so at this point, you have to then go, I need to create my own bubble over here because this person isn't safe. I'm not a betting man, but I'm betting he's not going to change tomorrow and just go, well, I had a revelation. I've decided to give you full access to the accounts and be transparent for the rest of my life.
I agree that saving quietly is probably her way out here. And on the Lord told me part, I won't say that's not true for her. But if both people aren't putting in the work to actually understand each other, that's concerning regardless of how it's framed.
How many times you have to ask your man for money before he gives it to you? I'm talking about y'all run a motherfucking household together with kids, and he makes almost twice as much what you make. You're a strong, proud woman, and that you've always worked, and that you don't want to have to ask him for money, and that it kills you inside to have to do it. I don't buy things for myself. I don't go shopping. I just want to get the fucking bills paid, and then maybe buy some groceries to feed us and our kid. How does it make you feel? Does it make you feel like garbage? Does it make you feel lower than dirt?
Look, ladies, I talk about this on my page all the time. Financial independence is freedom. And that situation that she's describing is a form of financial abuse. And listen, financial abuse is not just about money. It's about control. And when somebody is abusing you financially, they're controlling your mental health, your freedom, and then the shame associated with not being able to just take care of yourself.
This one's interesting because she wasn't fully dependent, she was contributing too. He had the mortgage, she had other bills. But because he earned more, The dynamic still let him control the narrative, made it look like she couldn't take care of herself, when she was probably covering things he was quietly benefiting from too. That's not equal, even when it looks like both people are contributing.
I didn't leave because I was brave. I left because I had my own money. It was going to be hard regardless, but being financially independent from my husband, a huge weight and relief off of me and the situation, which is why it is so important for women to have their own money. I'm not saying it's not good to be taken care of. Need something on the side, sis. People change. It was best for me to leave and get my own space. There was no scrambling. There was no worry about the financial aspect. My financial stability did not come from my husband, right? I had the ability to pay my bills on my own.
Kudos to her, honestly. This is the polar opposite of everything we've seen so far. These other women were raised to take care of the home, and there's nothing wrong with that. Being cared for, not having to cover every bill. But you should still be able to, if the day ever comes that you need to.
I have experienced being a girlfriend that was receiving a girlfriend allowance for so many years. I have experienced being a stay-home mother. I have experienced being an independent woman. The only advice that I can give you is that as a woman, you need to have your own money. You need to be able to provide for yourself, okay? You can have a man that is providing for you, but at the same time, you need to be able to make that moolah. That way, you're not going to be tolerating things that you shouldn't be tolerating. That way, you're going to be able to remove yourself once you feel disrespected. That way, you're going to be able to set boundaries. You are going to have freedom.
And it really is freedom. What if you change your mind? What if you get a new idea, want to pivot into something else entirely? You can't do that without something that's yours first.
I'm 74, single, and child-free. Being financially independent changed everything for how secure I feel as I grew older.
Once again, the full video is linked. What stuck with me was just the beginning. It makes me think about how many women are in that pipeline right now, depending on a man who controls the money. Do you have a retirement fund? Do you have anything set aside? That's a genuinely tragic place to be in. And a lot of people are there without realizing it yet. We've just seen what it looks like when you don't have financial independence and you're depending on a man for money. Let's look at what the women who do have it, or who've learned the hard way to value it, are saying.
I don't care how much money your future husband has. How much money do you have? And if you don't have any, figure out a way to make it. Because if I know one thing is true, as a woman, you should always preserve your freedom of choice and your ability to get up and walk away from a situation that does not serve you. A situation that could lead to your demise. How much money do you have?
Yeah, I agree with that completely. And the sooner women realize how important this actually is, the better, because tragic things like this are happening to so many people. And it's often the kind of thing people feel embarrassed to even talk about. A lot of women are probably going through some version of this in silence right now.
You could call me ugly, you could call me fat, miserable, old, all the things that men say about women, but baby, you could never call me broke because the degrees are degreeing, the resume is resumeing, my accounts, always accounting, my investments, always investing, bills paid, flights booked, and I truly don't care what anybody's opinion of me as long as I'm good and my money's good. My parents used to tell me that you could be robbed of anything except your education. Even if you were to wipe out all my accounts today, this is gold. This is gold. No man, no person will ever take away what I can do, how I can think.
I'm not saying that women who depend on men for money aren't educated, but the point is, you have to have things of your own. Hold space for yourself and for your betterment and for your own security. Nobody can take your knowledge away from you. Going back to the 19-year-old for a second, what's her plan? What does she have that's actually hers? There's just so much more to build.
I don't need a man to buy me flowers, but I won't date a man that doesn't. I don't need a man to pay my bills, but I won't date someone that doesn't bring something to the table. I don't need a man to open the doors for me, but I won't date a man who doesn't respect me enough to do it. I don't need a man to provide for me, but I am not going to date a man who has no drive, no ambition, and no plan. See, this is where people get it twisted. Independence doesn't mean I'll accept less. It means the opposite. Because I can do it all alone, my standards are higher.
That's so true. And I think that's the balance. Being romanced, being taken care of sometimes without being dependent on it. Enjoying it without needing it. Because depending on a man completely is a dangerous place to be in. So, how much money do you have? Not for him, not for anyone. For you, let me know your story down below.